meeting with people who lost loved ones in Sunday's devastating church attack and attending a prayer vigil where he delivered this powerful message.
I would encourage every American looking on. Keep this community, keep these precious families. Families of the fallen, families of those who are recovering from their injuries, and all of those affected by this horrendous act of evil in your prayers. Prayers make a difference.
I think those words would not be controversial, but they are not, in fact, going over well with some critics who are now suggesting that the expression thoughts and prayers is politically charged and that it's wrong. Listen.
We see a pattern in elected officials saying we need to send our thoughts and prayers to the families, to the victims, but then not proposing any action.
Thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers didn't stop a troubled person from buying assault-grade weapons.
Thoughts and prayers are not going to stop the next mass shooting.
Joining me now, Ben Shapiro, editor-in-chief of DailyWire.com. Ben, thoughts and prayers, we say it a lot, unfortunately, these days, because we are constantly covering massacres and responding to them, which is in and of itself just a devastating situation that this country finds itself in. Nevertheless, they're genuine, but they are getting criticized.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the criticism is coming from people who really don't necessarily disagree with thoughts and prayers, but they think that if you disagree with them politically, your thoughts and prayers must be insincere. So what they really say is that if you vote with them for gun control, then you don't have to either think or pray. And if you do think and pray and you vote with them, then those thoughts and prayers are sincere. But if not, then your thoughts and prayers are really just cover for you wanting to do nothing. This is a dramatic misunderstanding of what thoughts and prayers are for, particularly prayers, what prayer is designed to do. You know, as a religious person, as an Orthodox Jew, I pray at least 3 times a day and regularly between after every meal. And the idea of a prayer is not necessarily to change policy. It's to change yourself. It's to change your community. It's to better yourself so that God smiles with more favor upon you and your community. It's not always supposed to be just fuel in the tank so that you go out and pass a gun control proposal the left likes.
Well put. Well put. We're looking at a situation in another part of this story, and we have covered many of these where there are incidents that occur on campuses and communities where there's a racial or hate incident, crime, have you will, where it turns out that that's not exactly what happened. And we instantly sort of jump the gun and assume that it is what it appears to be. One was at an Air Force Academy where someone scribbled something on message boards, and they were given a severe talking to by the lieutenant general there, who said, if you're outraged by these kinds of words, then you're in the right place, and gave everyone a serious talking to over the matter, which would make sense if it turned out that that were true. However, that wasn't what happened at all. What's going on here?
Well, I mean, in a lot of these cases, what seems to happen is that the first headline that comes out is an allegation is made of something terribly racist happening at a college. And it usually is at a college and an academy because those are institutions where the administration is particularly sensitive, given all the civil rights laws that apply to public universities, particularly that they have to respond right away and they have to sound off right away and they have to give credence to the allegations right away. Now, listen, we should take allegations seriously, but we have seen a lot of cases now. It's not a small number of cases. We've seen a lot of cases where people make allegations of a racist slogan that's been drawn or a racist object that's been put out in public view, and it turns out that it was put there by somebody who actually promulgated the story, or it turns out that it had nothing to do with racism in the first place. This is why it's necessary in all of these cases that we actually wait for the evidence to come out before we start condemning universities as racist or all college students as racist. We're living in a really, really delicate time where every allegation, no one wants to be seen as taking these things non-seriously. No one wants to be frivolous about this stuff, but that sort of leads to the opposite problem in many cases where we don't even wait for the evidence to come out before jumping on it with both feet.
Yeah, well put. And, you know, the problem is that this part of the story never gets covered. When it turns out that the, Muslim-garbed teenager on the subway was actually not attacked by anybody, the only thing that ever gets attention is the first part of the story, and it just feeds into this beast that is so problematic, as you point out. Ben, we got to leave it there. Thank you very much. Always good to see you. Thanks for coming on. So coming up next, a big win for religious freedom at the...
Welcome back. If your first reaction to the terror attack in New York City is accusing people of Islamophobia, if they call the attack radical Islamist terrorism, that's just stupid. I'm Liz Wheeler, and this is my final point. There are three fallacies being perpetuated by the left about the terror attack in Manhattan. Number one, that terrorism doesn't have a religion, and this attack had nothing to do with Islam. Number two, that President Trump is politicizing this attack after he said he wouldn't politicize the Las Vegas shooting, and that's probably because the Las Vegas shooter was a white man and the Manhattan terrorist has a beard. Number three, gun control works, the left tells us, and that's why Sayfullo Saipov was only able to kill 8 people instead of 58 people. Wrong, wrong, and yes, all three are wrong. I know thinking is hard, but sometimes you people on the left gotta at least try. I'm now going to show you why each of these arguments is false. Okay, number one, terrorism doesn't have a religion. Well, this is what we know about the attack. The attacker yelled Allahu Akbar as he waged his attack. He drove a rented truck and rammed into people, using textbook tactics as detailed by ISIS on their social media accounts and in their magazine. The attacker left ISIS paraphernalia and a note pledging allegiance to ISIS in the truck. The attacker is bragging about the attack in the hospital right now. He was known to authorities and was in fact interviewed by authorities in 2015 for being a point of contact for 2 individuals on counter-terror watch lists. He killed 8 people. All right, now what does this information tell us? Every Muslim who says Allahu Akbar isn't a terrorist, duh. But pretending Islamist fundamentalists don't also say Allahu Akbar is dumb. The two are not mutually exclusive. To quote Kevin Williamson, context matters. The context here is this terrorist yelled Allahu Akbar as he killed people with a truck in the name of ISIS. If you ignore the fact that Islamist terrorists' interpretation of Islam, however warped that interpretation may be, fuels their desire to kill us, you leave other people at risk. Number two, President Trump is politicizing this attack, the left claims, after he said he wouldn't politicize the Las Vegas shooting, and that's probably because the Las Vegas shooter was a white man and the Manhattan terrorist has a beard. It's like liberals didn't even put an effort into this one. I'll do it for them. After the Las Vegas shooting, liberals wanted to ban guns. Trump is not trying to ban trucks after this attack because the weapons do not commit the crime. The truck was not the problem here. The ideology and the terrorist are the problem. This terrorist is not a U.S. citizen. We don't have to allow people who harbor sympathies to terrorist ideologies to come into our nation. That puts our families in danger. Banning bump stocks after Las Vegas was just a way for Democrats to push their gun control agenda on the wave of emotion people felt after our fellow Americans were killed. But no gun control measure would have prevented the Las Vegas attack from happening. That's why that was political. Ramping up our vetting process for who we allow into our country might have prevented a terrorist like Sayfullo Saipov from ever coming here in the first place, and therefore might have prevented a tragic attack like this one. See the difference? Number three, gun control works, the left tells us, and that's why Sayfullo Saipov was only able to kill 8 people instead of 58 people. What stopped Sayfullo Saipov? That's right, a gun stopped him. Imagine if the people of New York City were allowed to arm themselves, to defend themselves. This attack might have been stopped even earlier. Banning guns doesn't prevent terrorists from killing us, but it does prevent Americans from being able to kill terrorists. And nothing about any of this is Islamophobic. And that's my final point. You can reach me on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler. If you liked the show, please send me an email at oann.com/contact. In the meantime, catch us here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, have a good night. Welcome back. The DNC caught red-handed, potentially violating Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. That's right. The party who claims to stand with the oppressed could now be pressed with charges of discrimination. I'm Liz Wheeler, and this is my final point. The Daily Wire broke this story this week with an image, a shocking image, of an internal email in which DNC hiring managers specifically say they won't hire gay black men. Oh, no, wait. It's not gay black men the DNC is discriminating against. It's straight white men. That's why the mainstream media won't touch this story. Let me show you this email from a DNC employee named Madeline Leader, who serves as data services manager for the Democratic National Committee. She writes in her email, "We are rebuilding our technology team into a robust, well-oiled machine that can tackle all elections from the presidential down to dog catcher and school board." Well, I hope nobody showed PETA this email. Ms. Leader goes on to say, What's more important is that we are focused on hiring and maintaining a staff of diverse voices and life experiences, something that we desperately need if we hope to secure the future of our country. Please let me know if you have any questions, she says. Feel free to forward onto your contacts. I personally would prefer that you not forward to cisgender white males, since they are already in the majority. Signed, Madeline Leader, Data Services Manager, Democratic National Committee. Also, right there on the bottom, I just noticed this the 4th or 5th time I read the email. She actually notes which pronouns she prefers you use when you address her. They, them, theirs. If these people don't believe in gender, how can they claim the male gender is extra privileged? So this story got enough traction online yesterday from people in conservative media outlets like my show. We covered the story yesterday, that the DNC was forced to issue a statement. This is credit to Elliot Hamilton over at the Daily Wire. He broke the story. He's still pushing the DNC for a real response, not the dumb cop-out statement they released. This is what the DNC said. The email in question was not authorized by the DNC, nor was it authorized by senior leadership. All hiring decisions at the DNC are made consistent with the DNC's commitment to equal employment opportunity and hiring an inclusive and talented staff that reflects the coalition of the Democratic Party, because our diversity is our greatest strength. No authorization. Yeah, let me guess, she was a low-level staffer gone rogue. Resources were stretched tight, maybe. An isolated incident. Selectively edited. Sure, the DNC denounces the staffer. They were caught red-handed. What were they going to do? Admit this institutional bias against straight white men is their thing? No, of course not. They only say that in internal emails. They can't admit that in public. What they did not condemn was the identity politics that leads to this sort of progressive stacking. Yes, progressive stacking is a real word. At least a real word in the sense that it was invented by liberals. It means picking and choosing winners and losers based off of the supposed privilege points liberals assign to each person. For example, straight white men have 3 privilege points: straightness, whiteness, and maleness. Whereas a lesbian, black, gender nonconforming woman, well, she's got 4 points to stack her higher than the straight white man. So the DNC condemned the staffer for unauthorized behavior. But until they denounce the identity politics they peddle that leads to this discrimination against people for characteristics people are born with, like gender and skin color, their apology is as worthless as they believe cisgender white males to be. And that is my final point. You can reach me on Twitter at Liz_Wheeler. If you liked the show, please send me an email at oann.com/contact. In the meantime, catch us here tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern. And until then, have a good night.